Hello everyone, my name is Josh and I'm here with Holly who is making Salt. It's a social media game.
It's like a stalking simulator mixed with like a choose your own adventure game. You get broken up with right at the very beginning of the game through quite an unceremonious text and a phone call that you don't hear what happens, but you have to assume it's pretty bad, that it led to Jane wanting to completely delete everything from her social network. So as punishment for that, and until you get past this 30 people under 30 days thing, you only get to like look at the social like network as opposed to actually participating on it, which means you're like this weird voyeur ghost, as it were, and people talk about you and they kind of know that you're there. Also, some people just aren't really thinking about it, so they just post about you. It's like lurking, which we all do, but yeah, just made into a game and as a thing. I'm like Tim Schafer, but with boobs, I guess. No, Tim Schafer I think is probably funnier than I am, but I have my own brand of sense of humour, which mostly revolves around like jokes about bums and like porn, probably. So it's a bit edgy, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So Salt is about looking through the social profiles of people. You're just looking through and kind of being creepy.
Yeah, it's if you think of something like Digital Love Story, it's kind of more in that vein of the sense like you are a voyeur in this social network and you're trying to like kind of learn more about who you are because you play Jane Doe, which is an purposely quite ambiguous name, and like about your recent breakup and like can you find stuff out about your ex and like who your friends are and all of this stuff. So it's kind of that experience of having like been broken up with and then seeing their lives still happening on social networks and stuff, and then that part of you that wants to follow that even though that you know that you shouldn't. It's kind of turning that into a game mechanic and just basically turning that stalking that we all do but don't admit to doing on social networks into a thing that you're encouraged to do in this game. And the like art style of the game is very retro, I suppose. It's very 1990s and is kind of taking a lot design-wise from Windows 3.1 because it uses this system called Lunette 3.1, and it's basically harks back to a time like where I first was introduced to computers where like social media wasn't a thing, and like I grew up in a time where that wasn't a thing, and it's kind of I've been at a point where you like see it develop, and I was like, I really don't like loads of stuff that's about that, and I would hate to be growing up with that just as the norm right now, and I kind of just wanted to make a game exploring what that means as a media, I suppose. But who knows if I'm doing it effectively, I don't know, but I think everyone's had a good laugh at it anyway.
So you're trying to also represent like different cliques, I suppose, of people. I heard you mention like there were posh people on there.
Yes.
that were kind of douchey, and also the blokes that I saw or stalked on your game are also douchebags. So talk about the douchebag effect.
I think it's just a thing that happens from social media, and a lot of stuff that's in the game has been not lifted directly, but has been heavily inspired by things that people actually post on social media. I don't know, I think it's great that some people kind of do these behaviours but don't realise they do them or something, and like the humble brag is an amazing one of someone being like, oh, I only got 100 likes on this thing, or you know, like, oh, it's so weird that people like this thing, blah, blah, blah. And but you're like letting people know about these things that you've done, and then there's other people who are like oversharers and tell you way too much about their lives, and I just thought it'd be really interesting because like it doesn't, I always think what's interesting is that doesn't actually necessarily reflect what that person's like in real life as well, because like the girl who's your best friend in the game is actually quite annoying like as a social network user, but you're like, but she has to be cool because she's your best friend, and it's just like, I know loads of people who I love in person, but sometimes their social network usage is a bit annoying. Like, think about it, it's just like, oh, just be yourself. Like, I don't really care if you like about your personal brand or anything. I just like you as a person, so don't worry about that you haven't hashtagged something correctly or whatever.
I see mostly Facebook in it, but it's also a bit of Twitter. What social networks do you use a lot, and like how do you think that your use has like changed the way you think about your game?
It's actually changed quite a lot, and I like rarely use Facebook now. I purposefully have it so that I only can use Facebook for 10 minutes a day.
Oh wow!
Because,
I don't think anyone.
Yeah, well, basically, I find it's really distracting, and if I'm trying to work, I'm like, I need it to not be there. So, like, I check it, like, to check if I've got messages and whatever, but it does mean that I have, like, 30 unread messages over the past, like, 4 months that have just, like, accumulated, and I feel really bad to those people who I haven't replied to. But I think I've kind of just taken that, like, if you want to share something, I think you need to make sure, like, you're sharing good stuff that enriches people's lives in some way, like, kind of remove yourself from it in a way, so that it's not all about you, because to be honest, like, no one really cares. But I think, like, I barely use Facebook now, really, but Twitter I still love, just because you can, like, meet cool people, and it's a cool way to, like, let people know about cool stuff that, like, you're actually doing, which is what I like to think. I don't post anything just for posting stuff. I always like to post being like, this is the thing that I'm making, because things are cool that are made, or something, rather than, oh, I went here, I bought this, da-da-da.
That's my entire Twitter feed, so I entirely get why people wouldn't follow me. Awesome. So do you have, like, links, a Twitter, a Facebook?
I'm Holly Pixel on most things on the internet, and my company is Interful Entertainment, which is probably the worst name for a company, but there you go. And most of the information on the game you can get from there, pretty much.
Sweet. Thanks for talking to me, and if you've enjoyed this, then, I don't know, share it on all the social medias and be annoying to everyone.
Social medias of choice, or like carrier pigeon, maybe.